everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. I personally always love seeing people's costuming year in review type videos, and I feel like it's now a bit of a tradition on my channel as well. I have actually just about reached my 3rd anniversary here on YouTube, as I started my channel on January 10th of 2020, and I cannot believe that it's been 3 years already. In fact, actually long before I started my channel, I used to both read and write year in review posts back when we were all blogging on like LiveJournal and other similar platforms. So at this point, I've actually been making these wrap-up posts and videos for a very long time. So anyway, here we are, the end of another year. 2022 was definitely interesting, as I think we've all been trying to tell ourselves that things are a bit more normal than the last 2 years, even though I'm not really sure that that's actually all that true. But the world has opened up quite a bit more, and a lot more has been going on in everyone's lives. This has definitely been a year of upheaval, change, and uncertainty in my life as well. I started the year out with major car troubles, having to actually purchase a new car unexpectedly, and also pet troubles with Lion needing ACL surgery, which was a very, very stressful way to begin a year. And after several months of normalcy, I wound up losing my admin job at the end of August. Though, on the flip side, not long after that, I actually found out that I was cast in the first professional show that I've been part of in a long, long time. That job began in mid-October, and it kept me incredibly busy for about a month during rehearsals, but now it actually just kind of feels a bit unreal. I'm an external understudy, which means that I'm not usually part of the show. I'm like simply on call for about 2.5 months. So I usually only have to go into the theater about once a week. In a way, it's been a nice taste of what my life could be like if I could actually just do YouTube full-time. But in reality, as I approach the end of that theater contract and begin my job hunt again, it's really kind of just been a tease, since YouTube, even on a good month, only covers about half of my bills, despite the full-time hours. I know at one point I said I would try to take you along with me to the theater, but I've yet to actually go on in the show, and as the run is now nearly 2/3 complete, I think, I'm honestly not sure that I'm ever going to actually get to. I guess chalk it up to a learning experience and a professional theater paycheck, at least. Speaking of theater though, I also actually got to perform in a couple of dream roles earlier this year as the baker's wife in Into the Woods and as mother in Ragtime, for which I also made a couple of projects that you will see in this video. And we had a return to costume events such as the Victorian Festival in Port Townsend and also Costume College, which were both absolutely wonderful to attend after such a long hiatus. And speaking of costumes, I know that that's what you're actually really here for, so let's take a look at all of the sewing and costuming projects that I accomplished this year. I will link to my sewing vlog playlist in the description down below, which contains the videos for all of these projects. So technically, this very first project was actually finished late at night on December 31st last year in 2021, but as it missed last year's video, because I didn't expect to finish it by then, I'm counting it here. And that was my winter gunny sacks dress. All of the fabrics for this were from Joann's, and it is extra cozy because I actually lined the sleeves in this version. In January, I started working on my Daniel Deronda riding habit, which had been on my to-make list for several years. And it was not a quick project to make. In fact, it actually took me all of January to work on it, plus some of February, but I think the effort was well worth it, as I'm very pleased with how it turned out. It's made of wool fabric from fabric.com, rest in peace, and trimmed with braid. I also made the mock habit shirt to go under it, and I acquired the vintage riding hat to go with it as well. And my friend Lindsay actually even provided me with a real horse on her ranch for the photo shoot, which was such a cool experience. Plus the photos that my friend Colin took of Colin Madison Photo turned out so beautifully. Hopefully I'll get to wear this for something else sometime soon, but the long skirts of Victorian riding habits are really rather unwieldy. While I was in the middle of working on the riding habit, I gave myself a bit of a break to work on my first American Girl cosplay, Samantha's winter cloak, gaiters, and hat. This was made out of black watch tartan that Rena Sews found for me, which was just the perfect fabric. I honestly should probably put this into my winter wear rotation as it's quite cozy. Plus, I would like to do another photo shoot of this now that I have my Samantha wig. In March, I started working on my periwinkle natural form bustle dress based on this fashion plate. This was another rather long-term project as it took me most of March and part of April to complete. But in the end, I think it may actually be my favorite project of 2022. It's made out of silk shantung and taffeta from Luxury Fabrics and Home Fabrics in the LA Fabric District, and it's trimmed with tassel trim from Amazon of all places, and pink matte satin from Joann's. It is so wonderfully rustly, and it feels very elegant to wear. And I got to wear it to both the Victorian Festival and to Costume College. In April, right before the Victorian Festival, I also made a matching bonnet, which I call my cat ear bonnet, due to the peaks of the bows. Overall, I think I pretty much nailed the fashion plates. We're going to do the rest of this video with Dora on my lap because she demanded. While I was working on the bustle dress, I also made a very quick Bridgerton dress right before my birthday, which I wore to a birthday cherry blossom photo shoot with Emily, aka the Sucky Seamstress, and my friend Rachel joined us for my birthday tea after our shoot. The dress was made entirely with fabrics from Joann's, and though it totally wasn't intentional to make two costumes at the exact same time with the exact same color scheme, pink and blue are some of my favorites, and they're also wonderfully springy colors. I loved getting to take pictures in it amongst the cherry blossoms, and I'm kind of hoping to have a cherry blossom spring picnic event in 2023. So if you are local to the Pacific Northwest, keep your eyes out on the Puget Sound Historical Customers Guild Facebook page. In April, between finishing the bustle dress and making the bonnet, I also made a ball gown bodice to go with my burgundy velvet ribbon dress from 2020. I had actually kind of started this back in 2020, cutting out the twill flatlining pieces right before everything shut down. But when events were canceled that year, I just shelved this project until such a time when I would actually need a ball gown bodice. Naturally, I left it a little too late and was even attempting to sew some of the trim on this in my hotel room at the Victorian Festival, but I'm still very pleased with how it turned out, and I also wound up wearing it for my gala gown for Costume College. The velvet fabric was from the LA Fabric District, and the copious amounts of velvet ribbon for this gown, again, came from Amazon. After the Victorian Festival, I fast-forwarded a few decades to the Edwardian era. I was going to be playing Mother in Ragtime, and while I offered to costume myself, since I had most everything I needed in my wardrobe already, I decided I was about 1.5 outfits shy. The first Edwardian piece that I made was actually one that I had already planned on making anyway, ever since I saw Dame Zella Mode's video on her gorgeous lace-trimmed Edwardian skirt. I made mine out of lilac, super lightweight cotton from Mood Fabrics, which made me feel very special, and I trimmed it with lace from my stash. I didn't actually do the lace as insertion lace. Mine was top stitched on instead, but I think it gives it a really pretty perfect look. I wore the skirt with the Edwardian blouse that I made back in 2020, which I retrimmed with matching lilac ribbon, and it looked really great on stage. That wasn't the only additional costume that I wanted for Ragtime though. I needed something that looked a lot more somber than anything that I had already had in my Edwardian wardrobe, so I made a navy suit. This suit consisted of an Edwardian walking skirt, a black sateen corset belt type object, and a navy Eton style jacket with black sateen lapels and cuffs. It's not something that I really see myself wearing altogether in the future, just because it's a rather serious look, but it worked great for the show, and I think it will work really well as separates mixed with other Edwardian pieces. I also did one quick upcycling project in May, where I made a jumper dress out of a thrifted curtain. In June, I made another daily wear project, making a 1940s inspired summer dress out of Dumbo print cotton from Joann's. And then I attempted to go back to historical sewing and make a crinolette, which is a skirt support that was used in the very early 1870s. Except that that was a total fail, so I put that aside and decided that I needed an easy win. Enter another American Girl cosplay, Kirsten's birthday dress. This was actually really fun since I had no clue what project I would make until I went into Joann's to see what fabrics they had. I wound up getting pink window pane cotton for the dress and white cotton for the pinafore, and it was trimmed with eyelet lace from my stash. And honestly, I could not be happier with this project. I absolutely love wearing this cosplay as it is just like so freaking cute and so fun to dress up like a doll. I wound up wearing it for Comic-Con later in the summer, and it was my favorite cosplay that I wore there. In fact, I enjoyed making my Kirsten cosplay so much that I also decided to make a whole summer out of American Girl cosplays and make Samantha's midi dress and Felicity's birthday dress over the course of the summer, but I will get to those two projects in a minute. First though, I attempted another hard and scary project, a fiber optic dress. Unfortunately, as it turns out, I was a guinea pig for Loomis Sonata's fiber optic fabric, which they gifted me for this project. All of the creators who were gifted this fabric after I was were given fabric with all of the light components already attached, whereas I basically had to do my own electrical engineering. This made it very difficult and frustrating, so after having a go at the ball gown skirt, I put this project in the naughty pile till after Comic-Con. And instead, I picked up another American Girl cosplay, Samantha's midi dress and cap, which is made out of cotton twill from Joann's and trimmed with flat braid. And I even got to do a little embroidery digitization for her nautical insignia. And then it was time for Costume College. I do have a separate video all about Costume College, so I will also link that one down below. While I was in the fabric district down at Costume College, I picked up fabrics for yet another American Girl cosplay, Felicity's birthday dress. This one was more complicated since it was more historically based. I highly altered the Amalia pattern from Scroop Patterns to make this one, as it was the only 18th century project that I had made in recent years. It's made out of a pink cotton sateen that actually has a little bit of stretch to it and a floral poly cotton blend for the apron. Luckily, it came together fairly quickly in just a few weeks since Comic-Con was looming ever closer. I finished it just in time, and I even somehow won a Judge's Choice Award at the Sunday Cosplay Contest. Once that was done, I needed a little palette cleanse project before diving back into the light-up dress, so I made a Selkie-inspired embroidered cotton summer dress with fabric from Joann's, which was a nice and easy make. Then it was time to go back to engineering. I made the light-up bodice, light-up fairy wings, and I fixed quite a bit of the skirt that I had previously made, which meant the light-up dress was finally finished. I do kind of wish that I could have another crack at it, to be honest, with fabric that already has the electrical components attached, since so many of mine came off during the shoot that I would have to spend hours fixing it if I wanted to wear it again, and who knows if they would stay attached that time either. And now people are making their light-up projects look so freaking easy, which I'm sure they are when you don't have to do your own engineering. Oh well, at least the fabric was free. Surprisingly, despite that stressful project, I was very excited to get started on my next big historical project, my 1850s silk plaid dress, with my super cheap silk find from Joann's of all places. Although this was a pretty big project, I am again incredibly happy with how this turned out. The plum matte satin that I found at Joann's complemented the silk perfectly and was an identical match somehow to the fuzzy plum trim that I had in my stash. The mix of those textures, as well as the lilac silk velvet that I used for the bonnet, and the use of the various shades of purple, just made the project look much more sumptuous than I had originally planned, and I love the overall look. I have so far only worn this to our spooky shoot event, but I hope to find many other occasions to wear this outfit as well. While working on the 1850s dress, I also took a short break to make another gunny sacks inspired dress. This one was made out of harvest-themed cotton fabrics from Joann's, as I didn't want it to be as limiting as the specifically spooky gunny sacks dress that I made back in 2021. I also wound up making this one a jumper dress, since we were still having extremely hot weather even into October, and this was finished in early October. Later in the month, I also made a felt harvest witch hat to go along with the dress, which were both worn to our annual outing to the pumpkin patch. In mid-October, I made my mom a reversible vest out of 2 different Halloween print cottons from Joann's, since she had requested a Halloween-themed vest. It was fun to surprise her with the fact that it was reversible, since she had had a hard time deciding between the 2 fabric options. Mid to late October was actually filled with lots of little projects like the vest and the witch hat, also a pumpkin pincushion, and also the pumpkin 1830s doll ensemble that I made for my American Girl dolls. This ensemble consisted of a dress, matching ruffled pelerine, a tiny lace-trimmed chemisette, and a tiny white lace-trimmed pelerine, as well as a silk bonnet. It was really fun to make this nice and portable project for my dolls, and definitely caused a source of inspiration for me for a future project as well. Then it was time to tackle another challenging project, my 18th century stays, using the Augusta pattern from Scroop Patterns. Although I have now finally gotten them to the point where they fit very well, they're not actually done, as I still want to take them all apart to make a paper pattern from them, and then of course I will need to put them all back together and bind all of the edges. Hopefully I will finish that sometime soon, since I do have 18th century projects planned for 2023 as well. While I was still perfecting the fit on the stays, I also made myself a nice new wool winter coat with wool coating fabric from fabric.com. I love how it turned out, and it is quite a bit warmer than my older blue coat that I made back in 2018, so it has been serving me really well with all of the cold weather that we have been having this year in Washington. As you've just seen in my last video, my most recent project is my 18th century quilted Brunswick, made of pre-quilted silk fabric from Luxury Fabrics in the LA Fabric District. This wound up being entirely self-draped and drafted, which I had not anticipated, but I'm again quite happy with the outcome, and it's very cozy. Finally, my last project of 2022, whose video will be coming out this coming Tuesday, is an 18th century doll dress in lovely red silk taffeta. Make sure that you're subscribed so you know when that video comes out. Looking back at my 2022 plans video from the beginning of this year, I'm pretty pleased with what I was able to complete, even if a lot of my planned projects changed quite a bit. There were actually only 2 projects that just didn't happen at all, and one of those was because I wasn't able to find the fabric for it. Don't worry though, both are still on my upcoming projects list, which will naturally be next Saturday's video. Overall, I think I sewed quite a fair bit, adding in way more projects to my list than I had originally planned. And of course, I have all of you to thank for keeping me going on all this sewing. I've said this before, but there is absolutely no way that I would be able to sew this much if it weren't for my weekly sewing vlogs, providing me with the motivation to keep going. If you find that you're struggling with your motivation, I highly recommend getting into the habit of some sort of regular post, whether that is a YouTube channel or an Instagram post or even just your own personal diary. I think that a weekly check-in on your progress can be super helpful for maintaining motivation, even if it's just an account of you working on a project for 20 minutes a day. Every little bit helps. So I want to hear from you. Were you able to accomplish any sewing goals this year? Any projects maybe that you're particularly proud of? I would love to hear about them, so please do leave me a comment. Although I can't always respond to every comment, I do read all of them. And of course, commenting and liking this video do really help me out with YouTube's algorithm as well. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this little year in review video. As I mentioned, if you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs out on Tuesdays and other costuming content like this out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks right here on YouTube. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Sharon, Mirage, and Laura. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week and a happy new year, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!